crazy mother-in-law sent a fake cop to arrest me. Hey guys, I'm Griffin D, and today we're covering 3 toxic mother-in-law stories. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. Finally, the only mama. I got my revenge 14 years later. I have had to come anonymous and make a throwaway account for this post. Hey Mil, I know you will recognize this as me, but I don't want you to see my other posts from my real account smiley face. My Mil is a Reddit fan. So 14 years ago with the birth of my daughter, I had the same issue I see happening a lot now. Mil wanted to be called Mama. I did the classic things. Tried to train low. I don't know why it never worked. Perhaps the cousin's influence. They called the witch Mama, and her weekly babysitting. But despite my many efforts, Mama stayed Mama. You get the gist. I cried over it. Bawled my heart out to everyone. My Phil husband, sister-in-law. You name it. My daughter called us both Mama till I graduated to Mom at 3 years old. The smugness of my Mil was unbelievable. Used to make comments like I told you so. I was always going to win. I made it my hill to die on, and I lost it. It got easier as the years gone by, but it still stung. Fast forward to today. After reading many threads with this issue, I decided to tell my daughter at her hormonal age of 14, the reality why she called her paternal grandma Mama. And my mother grandma, she looked very taken aback, told me she always knew I was mother and all this. She was very upset. I told her it wasn't her fault and I don't blame her. Well, we have just left Mil's house. And soon as we arrived, my Sil and Bill were there also with their children. My Mil greeted my daughter. My daughter turned around and said, "Good evening, Allison." "Grandma, Allison." Mil said, "Who's told you to say that?" while looking at me. My sweet daughter then turned and said to everyone in the room, "Was you also bullied by Allison for us all to call Grandma Mama? I can't believe you all bullied my mom into it and disregarded her feelings and forced an innocent toddler into calling her Grandma Mama. I always felt weird when my friends would make fun that I call another woman Mama, and now I know why. If my mom didn't agree to it, Yas never should have forced it. And by the way, Allison, I've seen your true colors. And I never thought you was my mama. I just went along with it because that's what I was taught. I always knew you was that old woman with the same name as my mum." Everyone was so shocked. She then said, "From now on, you're Allison, my dad's mum." Allison, I finally got my revenge. I waited a long time, but it's there. Allison, if you are reading this, shame on you, for all the things you did to me. Telling me how my daughter thought you was her mama and I was a caretaker. Thank you. If you're in a similar situation, I hope it works out for you. But just know, you're always your daughter's number one. Mother-in-law convinces the kids we have passed away. I am seething. I am still seeing red. I cannot believe she would do something like this. DH is so mad at Mil. I've posted here a few times before, but a little background. DH is 30. I am 28. We have a 9-year-old DS and 4-year-old triplet girls. We both always wanted a big family, but the traumatic birth of the triplets took a toll on me. Recently we brought up the thought of more children with Mil, and she basically announced a pregnancy to the kids, and then claimed that I must be having fertility issues. Seriously, lady? I mean, sure, it's possible, but I had spontaneously conceived triplets. Not long after that, a close friend of DH's passed away in a car accident. Obviously it was very unexpected. Friend and his wife lived 2 states away, so it required a bit of traveling. We went to help friend's wife, FW, pretty soon after we heard, and stayed for the funeral, and a few days after, due to the fact it was quite unexpected, Mil took the kids for us. Initially it didn't seem like a bad idea. Bill and Sil would be there for 1 week visiting Mil with their 2 kiddos, 6 and 3, and then Ale would be there. Ale is very just eyes. She dotes on the kiddos and was one of the few to come by and actually help when I had newborn triplets. Before we went, I had to clear things with Mil. I didn't want her taking anything out on our kiddos while we were gone, and she was the only option to take care of them for that long. I explained that I was hurt because she knew how traumatic the birth of the trips was, and how it was scary for all of us. She was terrified too, came in white as a ghost to see me after the girls were born, and cried hugging me saying she was so glad I was okay, that we were all okay. She did, however, lose her mother to childbirth. She apologized for everything, said she had no idea and was acting selfishly. She said the idea of a baby just got to her head and then she didn't want to be wrong, so she just made something up. She said she knows how wrong it was. Anyway, we drop DS and the girls off, give them hugs and kisses, tell them we love them, and leave. The first few days are great. Mil sends us updates. The kids are playing with their cousins. All is well. Bill and Sil leave 5 days early. Turns out, Bill's sister lives kind of close by, and they hadn't seen her in years. She was also swamped with her 2-year-old DS and newborn, so they went to help her out. That leaves Mil with our kiddos for 5 days without anyone else. I don't hear anything from Mil for a week. Besides the usual, the kids are doing great stuff. The mood at FW's place was pretty somber, so even hearing that was enough to brighten my day a bit, and I didn't think much of it. 3 days before we are about to come home, Elle calls me, absolutely furious. She can't even describe what had happened, and just said I had to Skype her right then and there. Guys, when I Skyped her, she was sitting in her car pulled over on the highway with the kiddos in the seats. My kids were red-faced and teary-eyed. Dee Dee has a small rash under her eyes from crying so much and rubbing her eyes. DS hasn't let go of me or DH Dice. We came back, after Bill and Sil left. Mil decided to tell the kiddos that we had passed away. She didn't go into details, just told them that they would be staying with them forever because DH and I had passed away and wouldn't be coming home. When Elle came, the kids were still mostly upset. Mil blamed it on them missing us, which they agreed to because they thought we were dead. A few days later, Elle figures out what actually happened, tells the kiddos we are fine, and takes them from the house, and Skypes me where I find all of this out. We agreed that she'd take the kids for the last few days. I told DH, and let him know that we would be cutting his mother out, or we would be getting a divorce. He's in full agreement on cutting her out. The kiddos are doing alright. DS hasn't let go of DH or I since we picked them up. My heart is breaking underneath this seething rage I have. I want to hurt her, like she hurt my children. I want her to suffer. Any advice on how to cut her out would be amazing. We are already looking at places to move, closer to FW. Actually, who is my friend anyway? And plan on not telling Mil at all. She'll find out eventually, but not where we are living. I also have no idea how to explain to the kids that Grandma won't be around anymore. I don't want them to assume she's passed away too. This is a mess. I am so angry. I am so heartbroken. My poor, sensitive DS and my sweet little girls must have been so devastated. I just want to cuddle with them forever. Mother-in-law sent a fake cop to arrest me. This morning I came home after a night shift and was taking a nap, and my boyfriend was downstairs watching TV. I didn't hear the doorbell ring, but then my boyfriend woke me up and told me that there's a police officer outside our door, but he thinks it's not a real police officer. I asked him why does he think it's not a real officer, and my boyfriend said he doesn't look like one. I got dressed, went to the door and asked who's there. The person outside said police, and it was enough for me to realize that my boyfriend is right. I don't know what the rules for police visits are in the US, but here, if you're on duty and you come to visit someone at their house, you must tell them your last name. Announce that you are an officer of the law and state your purpose for being there. That's how officers present themselves, and there's no way around it. You don't just say police. I looked out of the peephole and saw a young man in a uniform that looked very much alike the uniforms officers wear here, but a lot of things were missing. Our uniforms are quite plain, just dark blue with a coat of arms of the town on them, but over the uniforms, we always wear a bright green vest with police on the front and back. It also has the name of the officer on it. It has a walkie-talkie, a radio, and a body camera. The person outside my door had the vest on, but none of the things I mentioned were there. He did look quite realistic though, and could probably fool maybe an elderly person or a child, but not me. We let him in. I asked to see his ID and he said no. I was like, what do you mean? No. If someone asks to see your ID because they want to make sure you're a real cop, you can't refuse. A police officer should have no problem with it. Then I looked down where his duty belt should be, and there was just a regular belt you use to keep your pants together. Where's the gun, the taser, handcuffs, and baton? Did you forget it all at home or what? At first, I didn't think Mil has something to do with it, but then the guy asked for my name and said he's here to arrest me because I have illegally married another man. That's when my boyfriend and I both understood she has found another way to try and mess with us. So I was like, do you have a warrant to arrest me? You don't? Have you personally observed me illegally marrying someone? You haven't. Are you even a real police officer? You're not. So hands off. The guy said you have a wedding band on your finger. Double quote, I can wear any ring I want on any finger I want. It's not a proof of any kind, so I did what I had to do as an officer. Impersonating a police officer is a crime and I arrested him. My boyfriend called to the police station for someone to come and take him away, and this guy was terrified. He told us that there was a woman who paid him to dress up as a police officer and come to my house to scare me. He needed money, so he agreed. He described what she looked like and we were like, yep, it's Mil. But what he didn't know was that I'm a police officer myself. Mil didn't tell him that. He was also very young, just 20 years old, and I could tell that he's genuinely sorry and he was really scared and worried about all the consequences he'll now have to face. He was like, I would have never done it if I knew you're a real cop. Even if I wasn't, it wouldn't make it okay. On the one hand, I felt sorry for him because he had simply been fooled by someone older and eviler than him. But then again, you're an adult, dude. You should have your own head on your shoulders. You should be able to make your own decisions instead of doing what someone else tells you to do. So it looks like Mil didn't have the balls to dress up as a cop herself, so she sent someone naive to do it for her. The guy is in the police station and he's going to face charges. Hopefully, that'll teach him to not listen what old, dumb hags tell him to do. No idea what was the end goal. What was he going to do after arresting me? But Mil has really outdone herself on this one. I have been a police officer for nearly 9 years and still, she obviously thought I won't be able to tell a real cop from an impersonator. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.